everybody, welcome back to Done Dirt Cheap Makeup, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new Airbrush face makeup from Sally Hansen. I did pick this up in 3 different shades, so I have a good idea of the color scheme. So I'm going to tell you guys what I think about it in the first minute, and then if you want to hear me babble on and go into detail about this, be my guest. But first of all, what is important to me is the staying power, the finish it has, and then also the coverage, of course. So if you're looking for a high coverage foundation, this is not for you. If you have a lot of stuff to cover up, you're probably going to want more coverage unless you're not like a full coverage girl. But this is definitely light to medium coverage. And when I say medium coverage, for me, my skin, I have freckles. I did have to apply 3 coats, and then I did have to go in with a little bit more and just kind of spot conceal because this is really thin, but it does have a beautiful finish. So let's get into the finish. The finish of this is a natural matte finish leaning in towards satin, but I wouldn't quite call it a satin. It's more matte than satin, but there's a subtle, I don't want to say like luminous glow, but there's not a sheen. It's just almost into satin, but not quite. So it is a beautiful, natural finish. I love the finish. It's what I'm wearing now. You can see it. It's beautiful. I did powder my T-zone area, but like on my forehead, you can kind of see that it's not completely matte. There's no powder on my forehead. Next thing I wanted to talk about is the staying power. For me, my skin, I have normal skin, sometimes oily in the T-zone, especially if it's hot outside and I'm out in the weather. But this had really good staying power for me. It does say it's waterproof. I haven't been in a pool or anything, but this lasted a good amount of time on me. So there we have kind of the 3 basics covered. The staying power was great for my skin type. It lasted almost all day. I had a tiny bit of wear in the T-zone. The coverage is a natural matte leaning towards satin, but not quite there yet. And then also the coverage. I get light to medium coverage, and like I said, if you have stuff to cover, you're gonna have to use a lot more than the average person, but it's so thin on the face that it doesn't build up and look cakey at all. If you're gonna get cakey, it's gonna be from your powder, not from this foundation. So here's a close-up of just one layer. Obviously you can see my freckles are still peeking through, but overall it did even out my skin tone. So here is a close-up of what it looks like with 2 layers. I got a little bit more coverage, but overall up here my freckles are still peeking through quite a bit, so I'm going to go in with concealer and maybe a little bit more of the foundation. So here's the foundation with 3 layers. Keep in mind this is a really thin foundation, so 3 layers might sound like a lot, but you know it's really not, and it doesn't end up looking cakey. I think I still am going to go in with the concealer though and really try to knock out some of these freckles that are showing through. And you may notice I do look a little shiny. This will dry down to like a natural matte finish, but it does take a while to dry. Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about the shades that I have and what I think about it. Normally in a line, I am like in suntan or sun beige or tan, like in the darker areas because I self-tan, and in the summer I get a little bit darker than I normally am. So I am kind of on the darker end of the spectrum. So the first shade I picked up is in Soft Honey. This shade was like 2 shades darker on me. It was just way too dark. It didn't work. So then I went to the store and I picked up, wrong lid, Warm Beige. This was like 1 shade darker than what I was looking for. Like it was just a little bit too dark. And then so the next time I went to Walmart, I picked up the shade in Classic Ivory. So I mixed these 2 and it's perfect. As you'll see in the demo, I'm using 2 different spray cans, which is the Ivory and then the Warm Beige. I did get, this is the lightest it goes, Classic Ivory. So if you're really pale, they're not going to have a shade for you because this is definitely not a true ivory. So here's a closer look at the shades I got. This first one is the light ivory, or what is it? Classic Ivory. The middle one is warm beige, and the darkest one here is soft honey. So you can see they have like a neutral undertone, so good for most skin types. The consistency is really thin. It goes on a kind of streaky, but then it just like blends itself out, so it's really nice. It's not like the most easy application, but I don't find it to be a pain in the ass either. So I really do like this stuff. I just wish it had a little bit more coverage for people that need covering. If you have like beautiful skin and you just want to kind of even it out, this would be great for you. I think this is so pretty. Like I said, it's what I have on now, and I think it just gives a really beautiful natural look to the skin without being too greasy looking or too matte. As far as the shade selection go, I do have the lightest, and I think this is second to the darkest, the soft honey. So I think they only have 6 to choose from, so not a big shade range, but if you mix and match like I did, it really seems to work out. Will I repurchase this again? I probably will, because I really love the finish and the staying power. Like, this lasts a lot longer than, on me anyways, than your average like long wearing foundation at the drugstore. Like, this lasts a little bit longer for me than like Revlon Color Stay, but it doesn't have the coverage, so some people might say, you know, it doesn't last as long just because the coverage is not there, but you can build it up. I mean, obviously I have freckles and you can't really see them. They're kind of peeking through, but you can definitely build it up, and it's easy to build it up. So you get 1.0 ounces, which is pretty typical. And I think these cost $9.99, so these are 10 bucks a piece. If this had more coverage in it, this would be like money at the drugstore. This would probably be my favorite foundation at the drugstore because it lasts long. It has a beautiful finish, but the pigmentation is just not completely there for me, or for what I like. As far as the smell of this product, it smells exactly like the Sally Hansen leg makeup. The consistency is, well, it's obviously really cooling, but it's more of a runny foundation. It takes a little bit to dry, but it is really beautiful. So I do recommend this product, especially if you don't have a lot of stuff to cover on your face, because this is really beautiful. So I think that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.